Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today we are talking about Sky Sports Fantasy Football. There's £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. My name is Joe and joining me ahead of Gameweek 30's fixtures is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm very good, Joe. Yeah, we were just talking just before we went live, weren't we?
Yeah,
Football's been so long ago, I've forgotten what my team even did
I
the
know.
last couple of weeks. But it's been nice to have a little break, a little
Yeah.
recharge.
Well, luckily you sent some pictures over of your team and I've got my team as well from Friday, so we can put those up so we can remind ourselves where we're at.
Hmm.
And we have full bunch of fixtures to come because we just had a blank game week. We'll say it was like over a week ago. So what we usually do here, we look at the latest tier 2 man of the match stars. Usually look at the last week, but we're going to look at the last month because hardly anyone played last time, and we basically just say, I don't know, get Trossard and Rafinha, and that would be the end of it. So we're going to look at the last month, and that may help us for the season running, especially with some players from Leicester. Who have a good run of fixtures coming up. Man of the matches, two I picked out were Welbeck and Iheanacho with two each. So if you are fancy a Brighton player, Welbeck is your man to get for man of the matches. Iheanacho, very interesting, great form for
Yeah.
Leicester. Are you? I mean, we've got some more Leicester players to mention, but are you interested in Iheanacho at all in Sky?
It's an incredibly tough one, isn't it? Because he's exactly the kind of player I would normally avoid in Sky, especially when you've got limited transfers, and especially towards the back end, where then you may have to use another one. Um, because I know, just instinctively, you think he's not part of their first 11 for most of the season. So then suddenly when he comes in and performs so well, and then people are like, oh, let's jump on him. It's very much an FPL buy for me. But then he's been that good and it's been working that well that it does make you think that maybe. So
Yeah,
and all the other forwards are terrible, which helps. So
yeah,
maybe I can sit on
yeah.
the fence on that one. Maybe.
Yeah, I would put him as a differential. If you've got a lot of
Mm,
transfers left and you fancy a punt and changing things up front, and you haven't got any Leicester coverage, he could be the one. Shots
yeah.
tier 2, Chris Wood for Burnley has hit
Yeah.
that
Going
twice
nowhere near that.
over the
Yeah.
last
No.
month. Then Ward Prowse, De Bruyne,
Hmm.
Foden, then Vardy and Iheanacho have got it once over the last month. So once again, you're getting a broad spread of points there. Looking at passing tier 2, Sionchu and Diaz have got it for three times. Okay, these are
Mm.
that.
See, see, now you're talking my language. When we say
Yeah,
about when we talk Leicester players,
yeah.
Soyuncu's dumping right out
Talking
right off the page.
Fafana twice as well. Yeah, this is definitely more. This is the sensible territory. In my head, I'm going, "Oh, Iheanacho, wow." But yeah, as you said, the reality of Sky, Sionchu is up there with Diaz in terms of getting passing tier 2 three times over the last month. So that puts him in a very elite category. Tackles tier 2. Lallana has got it a couple of times. Tierney, Cash, and Castagna as well. So another Leicester name there. And then saves tier 2, Meslier and Ramsdale got it twice. So if you're in the market for a goalkeeper who plays for a team that are going to be making a lot of saves, potentially, facing a lot of shots, they could be. They could be options.
And Meslier has literally since overhaul, because I had him pre-overhaul. I think it might be every single week. If
Yeah,
not, it's very close. He has hit at least saves tier 1 and
yeah,
possibly saves tier 2. So I switched him for Martinez because Martinez was killing me every week, and I think Meslier has probably
no,
outscored
yeah.
Martinez since, which is just typical, isn't it? It's just the way it works.
The interesting way the fixtures are is that Leeds, after they play Sheffield United, they've got a very bad run.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then it goes very good towards the end.
yeah.
So if you find yourself needing a goalkeeper in the final few matches, Meslier could be your man.
Well, even in the most difficult ones, he's probably going to get saves tier 2. So I suppose he's still an option from now to the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our team. So we remind ourselves. So here's your teams. This is what you came out of the blank with: Martinez, Azpilicueta, Stones, and Diaz. So a couple of Man City players, which gives you a bit of a differential edge there. Antonio, Neto, Fernandez, and Rafinha, and up front, Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Salah. So looking at this, and we'll come to the fixtures shortly in detail, but yeah, what are your plans with this? Your precious transfers that are left. Any
Yeah.
plans?
Well, there's not too many plans because I don't have many left. So for me, it's going to have to probably be more reactive than planning. However, obviously, I've looked at what I'd like to do and what others are doing and stuff. So there's a few out there that still interest me. But I do have 10 different teams covered there. Obviously, as you said, Man City, Stones and Diaz is the only double up I've got for a team. And to be honest, of all the teams, Man City are probably, even though they've got the worst fixtures, are still probably the one I'd edge to. And also the fact that you can never be sure on their lineups at least gives me two chances to get someone who's actually playing.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. The only so I've got Everton for Calvert-Lewin. I think he's quite important coming up. Salah, who's been absolutely woeful, and I really want to get rid of, but then suddenly has a nice run in, and I feel like still, maybe it's just
yeah,
allegiance as a fantasy manager for these last 3 years. Like he could come good, so there's part of me that just wants to keep him for that. I mean, the thing is, if you hold him all this time and he's been woeful, and then you get rid finally because you've had enough just before he has his good run, and then he does really well, you can only blame yourself. I feel like,
yeah,
so it's so yeah, that's very much up for debate. But my midfield is basically to cover the nice fixtures moving forward. I've got Antonio in there, who's been great, as we know. Obviously, he's very injury prone, so that's one that I may have to address in the future. Neto is simply because Wolves' games are just, I mean, we've talked about it a lot. They are so good. And I've decided to go for Neto over a defensive asset just because they don't really get the bonus points.
yeah,
The games are so good that I wouldn't be surprised if a defender got enough clean sheets to cover a Neto or even do better. But that's just the way I decided I wanted to go. And yeah, I've got my Aspilicueta in there, who I think is probably the key man from now to the end of the season. So overall, I'm really happy. The only things I really would like to get is there's a much talked about move later on of Martinez to Patricio, maybe for me. But as I've got Neto, possibly not. And a Leicester player is what I'd really like. So I just talked about him, Soyuncu. So it could be that I remove a Stones or a Diaz to get me an 11 coverage across the board. Or it could be that I finally do let go of Salah and I go for a Vardy and Iñárritu or even a Soyuncu and play 4-4-2. So those are my current thoughts. And apart from that, I've used my transfers to get my team in a position where I'm happy for it moving forward rather than the other way around. So pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, looking at my team, very similar. So because of the blank game week, I ended up going for Dunk, though. So one of my differences is that I went for Rafinha for the first captaincy, which sure you did as well, and then I got the Dunk because I got Dunk in before the week before. So I've got 29 points from Dunk, I think now.
Yeah, really good. See,
and
we talked about it last time, didn't we? Dunk on that Saturday is probably nailed for a 20. I'm going to have to avoid it and pray. I was pretty sure he was going to get 20, but because I hadn't got him in before, it didn't make sense for that one game. So I took the 20 points on the chin, unfortunately, but there we go.
So I got him in. So I've got Martinez, Dunk, Vestergaard and Diaz, just the one City player. Antonio, Neto, Fernandes, Rafinha, same front line as you, Kane, Calvert-Lewin, and Salah. So what I'm looking at is I'm going to reward Dunk for his 29 points, my team, by getting rid of him. I found myself with 4.2 million in the bank. So nice. Dunk to Aspilicueta if he's playing, because we get to see the Chelsea lineup on Saturday.
Perfect.
So him or Rudiger, I guess, but basically a Chelsea defender, hopefully Aspilicueta. And then I'm looking at Vestergaard for Sionchu, because as we've discussed, as boring as it may be, Sionchu probably is the correct call for tapping into Leicester there. And then that's going to be me for a while, really, because you were talking about Patricio. Yes, if I didn't have any Wolves coverage, Patricio could be an option there. But I've got Neto as well. I just think there's going to be attacking returns there. Why not, really? Transfer wise, I've got 10 transfers left.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
And I'm at 547th. So I've moved up. Previous episodes I've been sort of hovering around the 1,000 mark, gradually moving up to the 700. So I'm now in the sort of 500 bracket. My aim really is to use these transfers wisely. For example, remove Dunk to Aspilicueta, that kind of thing. Get Leicester coverage in, and once again, I think I've got 10 teams covered, and just keep mixing it up, keep getting the 10 with good fixtures.
Hmm.
I'm probably not going to do many double ups if at all. And the only
No.
other thing I was thinking, a luxury move, but one that could prove profitable and a differential, is Salah to Jota. But as you said, if that goes wrong, I only have myself to blame for
Yeah.
that one.
No, I think you're well positioned for the top 100 now. I think obviously you need
Hopefully.
to get lucky with some of the moves and what happens,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's still all this talk of what's going to happen with the fixtures. So they could come out and
Yeah.
surprise us. We could have whole game weeks shifted at the end for all these home games in front of fans. There's a whole lot of stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
So those people with a few extra transfers could take massive advantage. There could be 2 for 1s, 3 for 1s, who
Yeah.
knows? So still lots of grounds to be made, I think.
I think obviously Southampton could end up, could be proof very favourable there. But I think there might be a few people like me who've still got Vestergaard, and I just don't think he is the Vestergaard I thought I was going to be getting.
Mm.
I did have Ward Prowse in, and I preferred having Ward Prowse in because at least there was the hope of a goal or hope of something. But with
Yeah.
Vestergaard, Southampton don't seem to be doing it for me in Sky, and so I'm happy to remove him. And so perhaps too, Aspilicueta could be a move for other people there.
Yeah, the thing with Ward-Prowse though as well is he got a couple of penalties, didn't he, while Ings was
Yeah.
out again, and
Yeah.
his stock almost goes up when Ings is out, which is
Yeah.
strange because you'd think he'd get more assists when Ings is in the team. He probably would, but he just happened to get a few penalties, so suddenly he gets that extra level of returns, and there's no saying that continues. As soon as Ings comes back, it'll revert again. So yeah.
And just before we look at Game Week 30, so you're still comfortably in the top 100, still top 50.
Yeah, I went from, so without Dunk, I went from 28th, I think, to 40th. So I dropped 12 places,
Okay.
which is quite significant because I've been
Yeah.
moving up 1 or 2
Yeah,
places
yeah.
for a long time. So that is quite a big drop. But it's kind of a false position at the end of the day. I didn't have Dunk and I didn't have the transfer. So I used that transfer earlier in the season, maybe on someone else,
Yeah.
which got me to the 28th, and now I've
Yeah,
dropped
yeah.
back to the 40th. So
Okay. So
yeah, it's not bad.
yeah, I mean, comfortably in the top 50, and just put your team back up again. And as people can see, very well set up for what we know the fixtures to come. And amongst those fixtures, we've got Game Week 30. So let's have a look at Game Week 30. We have 3 captaincy days. Oh, we used to getting 5 or 6 in a week, but we just got the 3 this time. So on the Saturday, Chelsea against West Brom, Leeds against Sheffield United, Leicester against Man City, and Arsenal against Liverpool. So I would guess Leeds and Chelsea look the best bets for the captaincy. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Man City obviously could end up being the best, but when we don't get to see the team sheets, I don't want to go anywhere near it really.
Yeah.
I still think they're probably likely to play their best team because it's Leicester and they're a very good side, and they probably want to get a result just to get this title done. So De Bruyne looks a good option for me because he started to come back again. So those again, it's a differential for quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
I would be looking at that avenue if you've got him in your team. But yeah, for me, I mean, we get to see the team sheets and Aspilicueta's in it. It's a 10-pointer, so I'm just going to bank it. I'm just going to stick him in, hope it's a 10-pointer, hope he can even get tackles or an attacking return, a rare, something like that, and take that. I also think, obviously, Leeds versus Sheffield United, considering they're so bad, and then they've just switched manager, which, I mean, their last result, I think, was probably their worst defeat they've had for a long time. So, a Bamford or a Rafinha there could equally be absolutely fantastic. So, yeah. Aspilicueta, if he's in the lineup, if he's not in the lineup, it will be Rafinha for me probably.
Yeah, exactly the same with my thoughts. If I see Aspilicueta in the lineup, goodbye Dunk, hello. What do they call him again? It's the guy from Only Fools and Horses.
Rodney?
No, they call his nickname Dave.
Trigger. Oh,
no,
right.
because he always calls Trigger always calls
yeah. Called
Rodney
Aspilicueta Dave. Yeah,
and then, yeah, that's it. So yeah, Dave in. So moving on to the Sunday, Southampton against Burnley, Newcastle, Tottenham, Villa against Fulham, and Manchester United against Brighton. My philosophy is if Fernandes is playing in a on paper easy home game, I'm going to captain him. So I'm going to captain him. What do you think?
Yeah, when you say it like that, it makes me think that I should do that. My only reservation is that when you look at the two teams, because the other one I consider is Spurs versus Newcastle, is that Brighton are a hell of a lot better side than Newcastle.
Yeah.
So I may go Kane just on that basis. But Spurs at the moment have looked pretty woeful themselves, haven't they?
Yeah.
So and possibly without Son as well. I think if I hear news that Son is fit and he's playing, I'll be very tempted to do Kane. If he's not, then defaulting to Bruno Fernandes is absolutely fine. I
Yeah.
think even though Brighton are good, generally Man United, I mean, we usually beat you sort of 2 or 3-0 in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Score goals towards the last
It was
20 minutes.
the last match, wasn't it? It was like Brighton were doing really well, and then suddenly an extra hour was added on, and Fernandes comes out with a huge score, and I anticipate the same again. But yeah, also bearing in mind the internationals as well. So they're playing 3 times in this international break, and Harry Kane did well against Albania. I'm presuming he's going to. Why would you leave him out against Poland? Because that's the trickiest game. So I'm pleased that Tottenham are playing on the Sunday, not the Saturday. Gives an extra day of rest. But yes, it's something to bear in mind, that post-international fatigue. And of course, Fernandes himself. I understand Portugal dropped points in their last match. So I'm presuming that whatever fixtures there, a tougher time perhaps for Fernandes on the international stage. But
did you see that? On another note, did you see that? Did you see that Spurs game? Sorry, Portuguese
Portugal game. Cleared off the line.
Yeah, off the line / half in the net. Yeah, unbelievable. Anyway,
it reminded me of the. I don't think it was quite as obvious as the. Was it Manchester United? Was it where Carroll was in?
Yeah, goal? versus Roy Carroll. Was it Spurs versus?
Spurs,
I can't remember who it was.
and it just went in, and they went, "Oh, didn't see that." No.
Bergie on the blower, like Mark Sutton's.
Yeah. So yes, indeed. So yeah, good day. This Kane or Fernandes. I'm probably going to go with Fernandes just because there's a breadth of points there. If Kane scores, he might not even get shooting, but a tier. And he might end up with 7 points.
It's a very good point. Kane doesn't really get that many hauls. I mean, he does better in Sky than in FPL because he's got the shooting bonus and man of the match as well. Yeah. But Bruno is on that other level of passes, tackles, everything, assists, you name it.
He could get 7 points without scoring or assisting. So all it takes is a penalty and suddenly you've got a huge score. So that's what I'm going for. And then the Monday, we've got Everton Palace, Wolves against West Ham. So both of us have got options here. Who are you thinking?
Again, I'm just going to look at the opponents, I suppose. And West Ham, although they can be occasionally be erratic and suddenly be poor in a game you don't expect it, they just seem to be a level above of Palace. So therefore, I've got Calvert-Lewin. I'll get to see the lineup if he's in it. An Everton team looks reasonably strong, which I expect it will be. The only thing is James Rodriguez seems to make a big difference there. So if he's in the lineup, it will definitely be him. If he's not, I may have slight reservations. But Calvert-Lewin's, I think, Neto is a very nice player. He's a very pretty player. He can maybe get 1 assist in the game, maybe get a man of the match. But I feel like his hauls have come reasonably luckily. Whereas Calvert-Lewin he's almost a shoo-in for 1 goal. Maybe shooting bonus. So I'll take that.
Well, yeah. Also, the last match was quite. What's been happening without Rodriguez there is that Richarlison's been the main man in the centre, and Calvert-Lewin's been moved out wide. But that was reversed in the last fixture they played, and Calvert-Lewin was more the attacking in the box threat. I hope that will still be the case, coupled with Palace do tend to concede for set pieces. They're not the greatest. We don't know who's going to be in defence with them there. So we'll see the lineup. Calvert-Lewin.
And Palace are a team that sit deep, aren't they? Which therefore invites people to be in the box, and that's where Calvert-Lewin does his best work. So, just on very simplistic terms, I'm expecting Calvert-Lewin to be able to be in the box more often, where he's more lethal. So let's hope so.
Richarlison plus. Say Luca Dean, there's no shortage of creativity there. If Sigurdsson's playing, there's creative players there. So it's not like without Rodriguez there won't be any creativity. Yes. So let's move on to some questions we've had from the community. So this brings us back to what we were talking about Wolves earlier. So FPI off spinner, is Patricio the best goalkeeper to get in for the run-in? And then also, for reasons unknown, asks about that switch. Martinez out after the Fulham match for Patricio, the best goalkeeper through to the end of the season. Who would that be? And then Luke NDN asks, Patricio looks the best bet for the run-in. 2 fixtures on the Monday. on the Monday and Friday after Martinez versus Fulham. So that's the move you were talking about. Martinez against Fulham, and then ship him out for Patricio. So
Yeah.
good move.
Do you know what? I'm so undecided on this move. It's I completely get it on paper because I am very much fixtures orientated, and they have great fixtures. They'll also obviously have more if you make that switch as well. So everything points to that being a really good move. And he has been better of late, Patricio, because I mean, you can testify that there's been
Yeah.
periods of the season where he's been utterly dreadful.
Yeah.
And as a keeper, he looks to have sort of regressed a bit this season even more. He's been pretty poor in certain circumstances. He also had a really nasty head injury right at the end of the other game. I mean, I'm sure he's fine now, but that was something I suppose we haven't had any news from, so there's something to be wary of. I think it could work. I mean, the flip side of it is, especially if you've got Martinez, the fixtures for Villa are horrific after the Fulham game. I mean, they're away to Liverpool, home to Man City in the next two straight afterwards. They've then got home to West Brom, which is obviously a much better one. Away to Everton, home to Man United, which is, again, really tough. Then they got that another cheeky, okay one away to Crystal Palace. And then suddenly they're away to Spurs and home to Chelsea on the last two. So really, after Fulham, they've only got two games where you could say they've got a decent chance of a clean sheet here. However, Villa they haven't been great of late at all. Grealish has been out, etc. But would you put it past them to suddenly start turning it around and Martinez start hitting these worldy performances? In some of these games, he is going to get a lot of saves because they allow a lot of shots. So is it worth a transfer? It probably is, but for me, I won't be doing it, is the way I'll be doing it, just because I don't have enough. And I'll just have to hope that Martinez can get within sort of 10, 15 points of him by the end of the season, which I think is still possible. Yeah. So for me, I don't know whether I'd make that move. And I've gone Neto for that reason, the same as you have. So hopefully I'm right. But
And also, Villa have a game to be rescheduled.
They do,
Plus, so the added game you're getting for Patricio over Martinez is cancelled out, so it's effectively similar or the same amount of games. So
it's just the extra point for the goalkeeper, right? So if he's at the extra 2 points for the clean sheet, so he doesn't even need the saves. And you just, when you look at those fixtures, away to Fulham, who struggle to score, home to Sheffield United, home to Burnley, away to West Brom, in particular that little run of four, and then Brighton, who we know can sometimes not score. And you can see a lot of points there. So I do like it, but I just still don't feel 100% comfortable in the Wolves' defence yet. There's too much I've seen of them this season where I know they get to nearly every game half-time at 0-0, but then they end up letting you down. It's almost worse. I prefer them to concede in the first minute. I know it shouldn't matter, but mentally it's like I'd rather get it done than see it 0-0 at half-time every time and then them ship one cheeky little goal.
I mean, I guess for players like you and me who've got Neto, or those that want to get Neto in, by the same flip side, Neto is a good player to get in. Because he has that Monday and Friday. But it could be a chance to move up the rankings if you have Patricio and Neto.
Yeah.
And then, like I did with Southampton when I had Ward-Prowse and Vestergaard, whichever one I sort of wanted to get rid of first or just fitted what I wanted to do, get rid of them first. So if you've got transfers to spare, a Neto and Patricio double up for a little while wouldn't be a bad shout, I don't think.
No, I do feel if I had a lot of transfers, possibly even more than you've got, then there's no reason not to do this because a lot of people like me won't do it. So it's a reason just to be different. It's just I'm just not that confident on Wolves is all. And Martinez has been excellent. I know he's been poor of late, but even with those games, you just wouldn't be surprised, would you? All he needs throughout that run, right? He could get 1 point for the next 3 games, but he just needs one of those games where he does his usual 15, 16 point haul and suddenly it levels out over 3 or 4 games. And a lot of those teams, let's not forget, I mean, Sheffield United are gone now, but Fulham, Burnley, West Brom, they're fighting for their lives. So it might not be as easy as we anticipate.
True. For a good point there. Yeah, it's the old on the beach or got something to play for and a lot of those teams down the bottom. We've seen Fulham as well. They can be tough. Tough.
So on who you think is actually the best keeper, I mean, obviously Patricio stands out. I think you could go for the Chelsea keeper. He is only 7 million.
Mendy,
so I feel like they'll get a lot of clean sheets. I think he's probably the best. There's also Leno. Arsenal have just got fantastic games. Equally, they're in Europe and stuff, and the trust levels maybe not quite there, but their games are on a par with Wolves, I would say. So I think he's an option. And even Fabianski, I think, is another option as well because he does get saves, and West Ham are pretty tight, and their fixtures
Yeah.
are really good as well. So there's still a number of other options, I think.
Yeah, it's a good. The goalkeeper is a good place to go if you. There's a team you want to target. You don't have any of their assets. So, for
Mm.
example, if I remember last season, I think I made the move away from Henderson at Sheffield United. There was a sort of hop on off point to Nick
With
Pope.
Pope, was it?
To
Yeah.
Pope, yeah,
Mm.
and that was an exceptional move, not through skill, just because the fixtures happened to go that way, and it was and it
Yeah.
worked out really well. And you might get similar with Patricio. That's the hope.
Yeah. Well, the goalkeepers are just excellent point scorers in this
Yeah,
game. They're incredible value. They're all in the sort of the top 20,
yeah,
most of
yeah,
them.
yeah,
So they are a really good position. Another one's Casper Schmeichel. We're just talking about
yeah,
covering,
yeah.
Leicester. I mean, I do prefer it to do it with a defender for the passing bonus, but your team might not be in a position to do that. So Casper Schmeichel is equally a good option.
Definitely. Moving on, Luke NDN again asked Chelsea double up in defence to climb some ranks. Is that a good option? He already has Aspilicueta, but he's looking to add one more because of the nice looking remaining fixtures coming up. Just what you were saying there, Mendy and Aspilicueta. That could be a good double up there.
Yeah. I mean, he probably appeals the most because he's probably the most nailed out of all of them. But I do like that because at the end of the day, most of the top players are going to be on Aspilicueta now.
Yeah.
They were only a differential of sorts for a little while, and then suddenly they're not. Much like when we've all had the block Man City defense, it worked for us who went early, and then everyone was on it. So you start to get limited benefit from it. So yeah, I think the double up is probably a good idea. I mean, at the end of the day, if you really fancy him for clean sheets, I do. I think most people do. Then loading up on them is a pretty good idea. The only thing is, there's a little bit of rotation there. I'd probably go for Rudiger. I think he's only missed that one game. The passing bonus with him is a bit iffy. He doesn't always get it. I'd much prefer Thiago Silva, but he's not fit last we heard.
So Aspilicueta and Rudiger as the double
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So I'm gonna. I mean, rather selfish. I'm just gonna put a picture of my team up again, mainly because other people might be in this position as well. Now I have Dunk and Vestergaard. I have money to get Aspilicueta and Rudiger in. If I wanted
I love
Leicester
that.
coverage, I could probably get Schmeichel in, or
Or you could do Mendy and Soyuncu. That would be or Mendy and Fofana. That would probably be
yeah,
even better because they get passing bonus. Yeah.
yeah. So okay, go back to the fixtures again. So that I put that up because I've seen other teams with Vestergaard in and with Duncan, and that could be something to think about. So that's something for me
I,
to think about, certainly.
I think, yeah, now at this stage, if you're looking for any, I mean, people have still got Man City assets they're trying to get rid of. People have still got, like you've just said, Dunk and Vestergaard and people, which they don't have to get rid of. I mean, Vestergaard's got 3 excellent games coming up: Burnley, West Brom, Palace.
Yeah,
But really, Leicester defenders and Chelsea defenders are offering clean sheets, especially in Chelsea's case, and their players are offering passing bonus, and they've both got pretty cheap keepers for what is possible in their teams, especially Mendy
yeah.
with 7 million. So yeah, I think if you are making any transfers at the back, rather than go for Wolves, I'd be more tempted for one of them because the Wolves players don't really get passing bonus.
Well, probably Aspilicueta on the phone now.
Get me in.
He's saying, "Yeah, get me in." But don't call him Dave. AD Tour is Shaw a viable asset? So we've been talking about. I don't know if I've got any defender slots. We've been talking about Leicester, Chelsea
Yeah.
double up. I still want to keep Diaz. Is Shaw a viable asset? I mean, my answer would be yes, but can I have an extra defender space, please?
Yeah, again, this fits into that Iñárritu bracket for me, where it's like he looks fantastic. I'd really like to have him, and he does feel like a bit like an FPL pick rather than a Sky pick to me, just because he hasn't been fantastic on bonus most of the time. Let's not forget he does have a horrific injury record. It doesn't just suddenly go away. He's been playing a lot of games, but he is a player who is very well known
Yeah.
for this. So that's a worry for me. They're also in Europe. Are they? Have we gone out now? I can't remember. No.
Yeah, still hanging in.
Yeah, hanging in. And there is Tellez there. So I just feel like, I mean, they bought this guy at left back because Shaw was useless. So they didn't fancy him and they wanted to get Tellez, and then Shaw suddenly backed his ideas up and was good. So will there be some rotation there? Probably, maybe not, but I think there might be
Yeah.
a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 games, depending on how the Europe thing goes. So all of that combined, and Man United don't do particularly well for clean sheets. So it doesn't make sense on paper, but he's been that good, and he's
Yeah,
been clearly the man of the match anytime he takes to the pitch. He's obviously got a bit of an assist threat as well. That again, I think it fits into that category of if you're trying to do something different and trying to
yeah.
rise up the ranks, he's one of those guys I'd go for. If you're sat in the top 10 or 20, I don't think Luke Shaw, I don't think there's enough space for him, right? So
No.
there's too many other
And
people that
you've
can
already got
get
the
bonus,
captain from Manchester United's days, from Fernandes.
which is a very good point.
Well,
Yeah. So
apart from these weird 5 people in the top 1,000 that don't.
yeah, exactly. So all of that kind of points to good option, but maybe not in the top echelon just
Yeah.
because of what else is possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're chasing, yeah, start considering moves like this. But if you're looking to consolidate, you probably might want to be looking elsewhere. For example, Sionchu, Chelsea double up. These are perhaps more profitable,
Yeah.
safer moves to make. Thanks so much for joining me, Luke. It's been good to refresh ourselves of the matches coming up and get into the cut and thrust of a Sky Fantasy week coming up. Thanks everyone for your questions. Before we go, just a quick reminder about the Fantasy Football Scout members area, full of useful stats and information for Sky and FPL managers alike. Do check out the website for details. If you have enjoyed this episode, please press like, and also remember to subscribe on the podcast or on YouTube, just so that you can keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. But in the meantime, Luke, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your game week in Sky.
Same to you, Joe. See you on the next one, mate.